This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
We made this.
Hi, I'm Chris Carter, creator of The X-Files, and you're listening to The X-Cast.
Welcome everyone to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, Tony Black, and welcome to the very first I Want to Believe Minute, where we unpick the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. And today, helping me introduce this podcast, give a little bit of context on it, and talk a little bit about the trailers for I Want to Believe, are the whole rest of the X-Cast team and your fellow hosts on this journey through all the different blocks, etc. Carl Sweeney, Sarah Blair, and Kurt North. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, blimey, we're here. It's now I Want to Believe minute time. Feels like we've been talking about this, doing this for ever since Fight the Future minute, doesn't it, really? Which was, well, it will be 4 years for those of you listening, and it's about 3.5, I think, for as we record. How time flies, eh?
Wow. I didn't realise it was that long. That's incredible.
Well, it was pandemic, wasn't it? It was 2020. So we'd recorded the majority of it, I think, in 2019. And then it all started, I think, right in the summer of that pandemic year. So I think a lot of people felt like it helped get them through the dark days of lockdown and things like that. So, yeah. What strange time.
It's always nice talking about an alien virus during a pandemic, isn't it? Great timing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, what we'll do is if this is the first time you're listening to one of our minute podcasts, then we'll give you a little bit of detail on that in a minute. But before we start, quick reminder on social media handles for all of us, actually. So I think let's go around each of us and just remind everyone where they can find us if they want to follow us and things like that before we start this block of episodes. So I'm at linktr.ee/AJ Blackwriter. Carl, what about you?
I'm at CKJ Sweeney on X, and that's my handle on most places, really. That's where I tend to flag up any of the podcasts I've done and that kind of thing. So that's what I would search for if anyone is interested.
Lovely. Sarah, how about you?
You can find links to me on social media and all my books on sarahlblair.com.
Perfect. And Kurt, what about you?
I'm a Linktree guy as well, so linktr.ee/r-Muldrake, RMULDRAKE.
Awesome. On brand, as always, for X-Files there. And actually, you can find the X-Cast on Linktree too now at linktr.ee/the X-Cast. You'll find all the links to where you can find the show. And please do drop us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts if you're really enjoying the X-Cast. That'd be brilliant. Or on Spotify or whatever you use. That'd be ace. And if you really like our show and you want bonus episodes or early access to the minute episodes like this, etc., please do support us on Patreon. We've got a great bunch of Patreon supporters, so you could be one of them. You go to patreon.com/the Xcast. There's loads and loads of stuff on there for you to enjoy. So thanks if you do. Anyway, let's talk about I Want to Believe minute. I almost said Fight the Future minute then, because it's so ingrained in our heads, that, isn't it? Like, whenever we mention a minute podcast, Fight the Future minute was the one for years, isn't it? So how does it feel, guys, for you to have actually reached the second movie and doing this for the second, and to be fair, probably the final time, actually?
How does it feel? It feels good. I think it feels good, doesn't it, guys? We feel happy about this, don't we?
Yeah. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how many people can talk about snow.
Well, you know what? For Fight the Future minute, I think I did some snow trivia on some episodes. And I'm going to have to go back gonna have to go back and dig those notes out again and supplement them with some additional research, I think, because there's a hell of a lot of ice and snow in this motion picture.
No, that's a good reflection, Carl. You and your quizzes were something to behold. They were talking points for weeks and weeks after the event.
Well, I don't know about that, but I remember I did a cocktails quiz on one episode. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find some. There's a swimming pool in this movie, isn't there? I could do a quiz about swimming pools or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, not to labour the snow metaphor, but feel free to go off piste as much as you can. I've actually in one of them coming much later on from when people will be listening to this, I delve into the IMDb of a very background character from one scene. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I think it's very funny. So there's lots of little tangents you can take with this. So hopefully we will really. Because...
We will be the judge of whether it's very funny or not, and so will the audience. Tony.
Well, now I've said that, yeah, I think I've shot myself in the foot. But that's the thing, isn't it? With these kind of podcasts, obviously we're literally going minute by minute, and this is part of a precedent. The Movies by Minutes website has tons of examples of these, of people who've broken down movies going minute by minute for years now, and that's where we got the idea to do Fight the Future Minute from 4 years ago. And those minute podcasts are still going, and they're growing, and there seems to be even more of them now, and they end up, some of them, like I think it's One Heat Minute, getting on like people like Michael Mann and all this kind of thing. So they're really fascinating, aren't they? I know we talked about this before 4 years ago, but have you guys listened to any more of these since, or do you feel that anything's changed with the idea of minute podcasts?
I have not listened to any. No, sorry. But I think what is good about them though is it does mean you pay really close attention to something you've seen a few times before, and you do find other things. Like there's something coming up in this first 5 minutes, that we're going to discuss over the coming episodes, the four of us, that I hadn't noticed on previous, viewings of the film. But yeah, not like a big connoisseur of the big. Of the minute podcasts personally. Sarah, Kurt, how about you guys?
No, I'm the same.
Yeah, same. I haven't listened to any.
I've listened to some. The thing is that they're quite not in full, but because they are quite a big investment, really. And I think you've really, really got to love the film, and I think you've got to love the podcasters. In this case, that's a 2 for 2, isn't it? Really, everyone listening to this obviously loves us. Hopefully, and maybe loves I Want to Believe.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Fight the Future, like, I think generally most of the X-Files fandom like, or at least love something about Fight the Future, but I don't know if it's quite the same with I Want to Believe, isn't it? So it's going to be interesting to see how people react to us really digging into this film, maybe more than anyone has before in the podcast realm.
Well, people stuck with us through season 9, so I think if they can get through that, they can get through this as well. No, I do think though there are people who really like I Want to Believe, and I think there are more of them now than there were, let's say, in 2008. And I think my own attitude to the film has changed quite a bit too. So, yeah, I think there are people who will go with us on this, don't you guys?
Yeah, hopefully we'll give them more insight and help them see things in a different way. Because that's the fun part about the X-Files, is getting to hear it discussed in depth and finding new things to enjoy.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be an interesting take. I mean, I'll hold back what I think about I Want to Believe till the appropriate time. But it's certainly, I think there's people out there that do love the film, and there's people who are intrigued by it, and there's definitely this stuff that we can talk about. So I think generally people are happy to go for the ride with us. They might get some fun, they might get some serious talk, they might get some kind of like maybe, as I say, some interesting trivia along the way. Maybe go off on tangents talking about snow play and all kinds. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's it. I think it'd be a good mixture of things. So we've recorded some of them. So quite a lot of them we haven't yet as we do this one. So it's quite early in the game, really. So there's lots we don't know what's going to be coming up, but I think it will be really good. But obviously, you guys have just recorded The Truth. So we finished our season 9 recordings now. So we've now officially recorded the whole of the classic era of the X-Files, which, I mean, that is a bit of an achievement, really. I mean, everyone will have listened to those by the time this goes out, but we messaged and we were like, yay, because it feels like after 8 years nearly, that's a big deal, and it's just quickly, how do you guys feel about that, getting to the end of the truth?
Well, I think Kurt and I talk a little bit about that on the Truth episode itself. I think we feel that it's, like you say, an accomplishment. And, we had done the entire series once already in the Podwatch series we did, hadn't we? But this is different because it's main episodes.
It's official. It's canon.
I do think a lot of podcasts that recap TV series, a surprising amount of them do give up partway through. And I think perhaps we heeded Father Joe's advice because we always were like, well, no, we're not going to give up. Don't give up. That's our creed. But you know what I mean? A lot of recap podcasts, they might have got to season 4 of the X-Files and stopped. And, there are podcasts that do that. So I think that hasn't happened with the X-Cast. So, on that level, great stuff. The quality of the episodes, that's for other people to decide. But I think at least we got there. At least, if we produce, I think our motto has always been, if we record enough stuff, eventually a listenable podcast will emerge,
So is that kind of like, so if you book him, they will come kind of conversation?
But Sarah wasn't on the Truth episode, so I'd be interested in hearing Sarah's reflections on getting to the end of the original series.
Well, she opened the cellophane wrap on the DVD, so that's a start.
Yeah, it's true. I did. Yeah, we talked about that on release, so you'll get to hear that.
Are you happy, Sarah, that we've got to the end, or what are your emotions on it? Well, the first ending, anyway. Obviously, we've got still a bit of way to go, but what are your emotions on it?
Yeah, it was really exciting, and I'm glad that we made it. Just getting to hang out with you guys and talk about my favorite show for 8 years has been incredible. So,
yeah.
It's a big accomplishment, like you guys said.
Yeah. I think that's the nice way to look at it. Definitely, that it's the journey, it's the friendships along the way that's made it worth it.
We are very reflective today.
We are, aren't we? Well, on that, look, let's think about them before we start talking about I Want to Believe and beginning this journey. Let's reflect on that gap then between the Truth and I Want to Believe. So there's a six year gap between 2002, The Truth ends. 2008, I Want to Believe airs in the summer of 2008, infamously in the shadow of The Dark Knight, so it comes a weekend after the behemoth of that film, which doesn't do it any favours. That 6 year gap, do we remember? We're all, sadly, old enough to remember that at the time. Do we remember how we felt about the X-Files, or what was circling in the ether at that point after The Truth? After they talked about getting to the end of season 9, you've got Mulder and Scully back together, and the plan was to make more movies, certainly make a second movie. So what do we recall from that period?
What I recall is that, so the series finishes 2002. I think my expectation at that point was, there might be another X-Files movie within, let's say, 2-3 years. And then I remember that I would occasionally go online and search for X-Files news, and there always seemed to be articles with a quote from like Chris Carter or somebody, or David Duchovny or Gillian Anderson saying, yeah, we want to do it, it's just a case of getting the script and blah, blah, blah. And it just seemed to never progress beyond that for a long time. And then I went to university 2004, and I wasn't really keeping tabs on things then. And I think it got to the point where I just assumed that the prospects of a second film happening had receded, the longer that gap went on. And then by the time they actually got moving on it, I was, I wasn't really online very much at that point in my life. I wasn't plugged into the fandom. So a lot of the build up to I Want to Believe, I don't have any memory of whatsoever. I can remember going to see the film, but a lot of the stuff prior to that is hazy for me. And I don't think I was aware of a lot of it. But how about Kurt or Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm similar. So 2002, likes of 24 came out, Lost, Battlestar Galactica. So a lot of my TV watching had moved on. Similar to you, Carl, that I was kept an eye on it on occasion, just kept on going online, seeing what was happening. That, you'd hear these rumours that they're looking to greenlight something, and it didn't really take off. And then, we're going back to the drawing board, and then you hear that, it's going to be a standalone film, and that has been greenlit, and it's going to be a little bit less money. It's going to be something slightly different. And I was actually quite not necessarily linked into the fandom, but I was actually quite observant because I've seen things like Amanda Peet and David Duchovny being filmed or videoed outside of the building where they have the bit where they run after Conky Frenet and things like that. So I do remember some of the external scenes being like leaked, and I also remember it was either WonderCon or Comic-Con when they released the trailer and the vibe. So I was a bit more switched on to that, and and I was looking really forward to it actually, and I think probably more so in hindsight than Fight the Future, because Fight the Future just came and landed at the same time as the show was on. So this was like more of a build up of going, oh, what's going to happen now? How can I look online and see if there's any clips, anything that's been leaked out into the press and stuff like that? Because I even think the blood box that they used for the organs was actually noted at one point that someone had seen that and they were questioning what that was for and things. So yeah, I was a bit more plugged in than yourself, Carl, on that.
I think I was somewhere in between those two a little bit. I was very excited and looking forward to it and, you know, paying attention, but I missed some of the extra things that Kurt mentioned. But yeah, same for me. I kind of had always kept watching the X-Files here and there, but I wasn't rewatching it quite as often anymore. You know, like you guys, I was at university and getting a degree and all that, so my focus had kind of shifted a little bit, and then ended up getting married in 2007. So, you know, starting a new life with my husband and all those things, you know, took up a lot of time. So I kind of wasn't quite tuned into it, but I was very aware when the announcement came that they were going to do another movie. And, you know, I was ready and sitting there in the theater at the first showing on that Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning with 3 other people. So I was ready and excited for it, for sure.
Well, a random aside question, but this forms part of my bit with this. When did you guys first get the internet, like, at home or easy access? Because I didn't get the internet, like broadband or the whatever. Well, it wasn't dial-up. It was the early broadband. It wasn't dial-up, though. It was just after that.
Okay.
I didn't get that till 2005.
It'd be 128 megabyte. That's what it'd be. It's 56k and it was 128
But
megabyte.
this was fairly early broadband. So, but I didn't get it till 2005, actually, which I always assumed was quite late.
It is.
So
That sounds like,
Yeah.
Because I think, I remember we had the internet at home in like 1998, early 1999, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I had
YouTube came out in 2004, 2005 as well as Facebook, so that is fairly late.
Yeah. I had dial up when I was 13, I think. So 93, 96.
Oh, blimey. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously
AOL.
Right. And that's where a lot of this fandom and all these things cropped up. And I missed all that stuff. So I used to go to like libraries. I used to go to university because I again was at university like a lot of you guys. I used to go to the university library. I used to go to the public library, looking up Friends Reunited. Yeah, I don't know if you got that over in the US, Sarah. Friends Reunited. Did you? I don't know if you got that, but it was basically Facebook before Facebook, and you'd go on there and you'd look up all the people who you went to school with, and you'd see what happened to them. It didn't last very long. And then there was
we had MySpace.
MySpace, yeah, and I used to go on listen
Bebo.
to it.
Did anyone have Bebo?
Did you have Bebo?
For a while, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was all right.
I'm not judging.
Clearly are.
Bebo was just it was a little bit too young for me.
Right.
I was too young.
Too
I was
old,
too old at the time to see. So yeah, that's what it was.
But MySpace obviously had you clicked on the page and you played the set that everyone had the song, didn't they? That would be on your profile page. So I think it was Foo Fighters for me or something like that. So you know,
and you had your first friend was always Tom.
Your first friend was always
your first
Tom.
friend.
Looking back like that.
Just got a question for you, Tony, because obviously you know behind the scenes. So what speed broadband are you on now? Are you on 128k or?
Do you think I'm going to know the answer to that question? It's very
Absolutely not,
very
but-
unlikely. It goes. That's about it. I know. But the reason I asked this, is because I wasn't plugged into the fandom at all during that time. So I'd watch the X-Files and I tuned in and out of bits of season 9. So I had the internet by the time I Want to Believe was starting to ramp up, and in terms of, you know, when they were filming it and such. And there'd been a lot of legal issues, I think, in those interim years that were still rattling on between Duchovny, Carter, 20th Century Fox, etc., that were holding this up to an extent. Because I think Carter had come out and said he wanted to try and get a film mounted by about 2004, which would have made a lot of sense. And that they would have done a standalone movie. And in an ideal world, maybe they would have done a standalone movie then around 2008. And then they'd have done the mythology film in 2012. That was the original idea. But obviously that didn't happen. So it was all a bit pushed back and delayed. And do you guys remember the fake werewolf head prop that they put out there?
Very, very vaguely, but I don't remember exactly.
So I sort of heard of it afterwards, but I don't remember knowing about it at the time, no.
I did see this on a website, and it led everyone to believe that it was going to be a werewolf movie. And they did it on purpose to throw people off the scent. Which, I mean, I might have preferred a werewolf movie in the end, but there you go. So they did little tricks like that as viral, because, you know, this was viral marketing. Lost was doing viral marketing around this point, you know, very successfully. So they were starting to understand that you could manipulate audiences a little bit through information on the internet and such. So they did a little bit of that. And I don't know if they had a fake title, because they had one for Fight the Future, didn't they? And that was Blackwood, I think, back then. But I can't remember whether they had a fake title for the X-Files movie. It might have been Done One, because that was, or that might have.
It was Done One.
Was it Done One?
That's what it was.
Because
yeah.
I don't quite know why.
Well, it's Done One film. We've already done one film. We're doing two.
There you go. Okay, that makes sense. So you've got all that rumbling on in the background, and then they make the film, obviously, and then we get the trailers. So I thought we'd finish this off before we quickly just tell people the rough format for these. The trailers, how did you guys feel when you saw... Well, firstly, what trailer did you see? Or if you can remember roughly what kind of trailers you saw for this, or how you felt at least about what trailers or what trailer for this you did see at the time. Can you remember?
I can very distinctly remember the first time I saw the trailer, because it was like 4 hours ago. Because I don't think... I just don't think I saw the trailers at the time, because I wasn't a regular cinema goer in 2008, because my son had been born, and then it becomes all the, like, you need a babysitter, and I'd left university and I was working quite long hours at the time at my job and all of that. So if I looked at the list of films that were released in 2008, I think very few of them I would have seen at the cinema, and I wasn't really watching trailers anywhere else. So I'm sure I must have seen things like posters for I Want to Believe, or ads in the newspapers or something like that. But I watched the trailers on the Blu-ray this morning, and I had no memory of them whatsoever. I watched the international version, which presumably is what would have been shown in the UK, and also the North American one, but I don't think I'd ever seen them before, to be honest. Sorry.
I did not rewatch the trailers, but I do remember when the trailer did come out, being so excited and rewatching it multiple times in anticipation. So I was pretty excited coming up to seeing the movie for the first time.
So I saw it through this will be interesting, through a phone recording, probably via the it wasn't MP4s then, it was 3GBP. What? Yeah, I know. It was like on the old phones when you used to like film it, and it used to be in like sort of 240p. And it was at the Comic Con or the WonderCon or whichever one it was, and watching their reaction. So a lot of it was actually quite fun to watch when you saw like the X-Files come up, and then like I remember the Fight the Future one when it was like Mulder, just before they're running the beast thing. In this one, it's like Scully turns round and people start cheering. You don't really see Mulder till quite late on into it, and he's running, and you hear the people screaming again. And the only reason why I've got to kind of rejig my memories for is I did a deep YouTube search because I can't find it, and I eventually found a clip of it. And that was the first time that I'd seen it. And I think also as well, for me personally, because Billy Connolly was actually in it, it made me actually wonder more about exactly how they were going to bring him in, being just how famous he is over here. I know he's been in America and probably is quite well known in America, but just going, Billy Connolly in an X-File, how is that going to work? So there's an element of that as well that I was really intrigued by that. So yeah, so that mine was through, YouTube at the time, 2008, watching a WonderCon or Comic Con, someone filming it with the phone.
I seem to remember seeing it at the cinema, I think, the trailer, the international trailer. And I thought it looked I did think it looked very, very interesting because they do amp it up to be very much like a monster movie, don't they? Much more than the actual film turns out to be. They even amp up certain sound effects, like when you see the shadow of the man cutting across, I think it's Monica's apartment or house or whatever, and they do like a kind of sound. It makes it seem like there's some sort of monstrous creature, and it's got maybe even the devil, because at one point I think Scully says it's something like in the trailer that it might not be God or whatever. So they really are trying to send you down that route, aren't they? Perhaps understandably, because I think if they'd actually sold the film is exactly what the plot is, I think they might have gone, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So you don't really see people like Callum Keith Rennie in there. You barely see like Fagin Woodcock, who plays the other Russian guy. Though that's all very much kept to the background, so they can emphasize, Billy Connolly and all the FBI stuff, and chasing, and obviously Mulder and Scully.
It's here.
It's here. I had a vision. All that stuff. So I suppose all trailers do this, don't they? They try and create a sense of something that doesn't always match up. But I do think maybe the Fight the Future trailers reflected the film we got a little bit more than the I Want to Believe ones. I don't know if you guys agree.
I was kind of expecting and hoping for a true Monster of the Week, but that's not
quite.
It was kind of yeah,
quite. We'll come to this when we talk about what we think, but
exactly.
Yeah, I think if you watch the trailers, I think they do a decent job of selling it as a thriller in a way that the film itself doesn't always do the traditional thriller stuff in quite the same way as you might be led to believe from the trailers. So I think it's fair enough. I think you're probably right, Tony, that the Fight the Future trailers were a bit closer to what the film actually was. But yeah, that's how I feel off one viewing of the trailer today. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good though. I thought they were quite effective. They made me go, "Ooh, this looks good," and then no, it's not. I was going to say no, and then I remember the film, but that's not fair because it's good. But I was like, "Oh, this." No, they're quite good, and they're fairly similar. I think the American and the international ones, there's not much in it really. They're roughly the same. They still do the whole tricks of the Mulder, Scully, and then you see them, and then you get the thing, and all that stuff. Anyway, let's round this off by just saying the rough format this is going to be, all right, for I Want to Believe minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to have blocks of episodes, all right? So each of us, and maybe with one or two guest hosts, but mainly us four, are going to host the episodes, and the four of us are going to do the first block, and we're going to do the last block, and we're going to wrap it all up at the end. And then we're going to spiral off and bring in other guests and combine and things like that to get loads of people involved on the journey. And we'll do roughly blocks that correspond, by and large, with certain scenes in the movie, really, with maybe a little bit of overlap here and there.
Yeah.
So there might be blocks of about 4 or 5 or 3 or 6. It depends, but usually no more than that. And then we're going to release them roughly every day with maybe a little gap in between. So you'll get a condensed 100+ episodes over a 3-month-ish period. So anyone who listens to Fight the Future Minute will remember this. It's going to be basically exactly the same format. Episodes might be about 15 to 20 minutes apiece, but it will all build up to being a huge wallop of podcasts about I Want to Believe at the end. So this is going to be fun, guys.
Unless you've got Darren Mooney on your account.
Well, I kept him to under half an hour, I tell you, for each one.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah,
I think. So it's going to be fun, guys. We've got some great guests coming on, haven't we, and joining this. Some people who've been on the show before, some new people. I think it's going to be fun.
It should be fun. I think one thing we should probably clarify for listeners is that there are 2 versions, at least, of I Want to Believe circulating. There is a theatrical version, which is what was released in cinemas, and there's a director's cut. And we are using the theatrical version, aren't we, Tony? Like, that's so if people are watching along or something, doing the minutes, watching the minutes that way, go for the theatrical version if you can.
Yeah. So UK listeners, it's certainly on Disney Plus. Sarah, I don't know if the theatrical is on a particular streaming service in the US or it will have to be.
Not at this time.
That's a shame. So dig out your Blu-rays, all right, and because it should be on there. So yeah, hopefully a lot of people listening to this will have I Want to Believe on Blu-ray. So yeah, if you're in the US, that's probably the best way to do it. So yeah, thanks for that clarification, Carl, because it's caused us a little bit of confusion and questioning at points, but we've got there in the end, and we're on track. So great stuff. So please do. So hopefully that will make it easier to follow the timings and everything that we're doing. So guys, shall we leave this behind and crack on into the very first minute then of I Want to Believe and get this party started?
Sounds good.
Woo, let's do it.
All right. Kurt's determined, by the way, to do Billy Connolly impressions where he can. So brace yourselves, guys. I think
horrible versions of Billy Connolly.
More of that to come. So we'll be back to cover minute 1 very, very soon and begin breaking down the film. So thanks for listening, guys. Hope you join us for the rest of this journey. But until next time, always remember, trust no one.